Hello, 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 world. This is Shruti Pandey, and today on itishruti, I have a Ram Milai Jodi. Something like God made this this pair for roundtable for me. Both of these amazing, lovely testers. I'm pretty sure all of you or most of you know, in case you are not following social media enough, testers. I have Laveena and Vipin sir with me, and both of them commented on a post together where they expressed their I'm still at loss of words in even saying what they said. So I was so happy ki I need to get them on the podcast, and I'm really humbled and grateful for the fact that both of you wanted to be on a podcast with me. So thank you so much again.
Thank you
Thanks
for
for
having
having
me.
us.
And the word was eagerness, expressed our eagerness.
No, for
Yes.
you it might be eagerness, but I was not sure how to put it out it to make it look okay for me. But really, really, I appreciate your eagerness, and for me, I think it was kindness of yours, both of yours, that you wanted to be on my podcast. So I really appreciate it and very humbled by it. So I have created three questions for you. This is a round table format. It doesn't mean that we need to argue, fight, or debate. Just stating the obvious for not just you guys might know it, but for people who are listening to us, for them to understand the round table. So it's just a general discussion about testers having experiences and their fair share of knowledge. Three questions. They're going to remain the same for both of you. You can take turns. Whoever wants to go first can start talking,
Sure.
and we can get going from there. So, should I start with my questions for you guys?
Go for it.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay. Okay. So, my first question for both of you is: do you see any difference between testers in India versus testers outside of India? Or whatever difference you think there is between a tester in India versus outside of India. So, in case you want to take stand for India, sir, and talk about that, I'm keeping your options open. Or if you want to talk
Yeah.
about both, feel free.
Lavina, you want to start?
Sure, no problem. I never thought there was a difference because I guess the only difference for me is I think time difference and culture
Okay.
because um, testers outside India may have different skills and different way of thinking, whereas testers in India might have different ways of thinking. And obviously, it depends on the on what type of communities they are connected with, what sort of projects they're on. And I guess I've worked a lot with suppliers, a lot of testers from India. So the only things that I find that are very different for me are the time differences and just the way sort of culturally, no, because based in the UK, there are different ways of thinking, different ways of doing things, and because we are close to the company, we try and follow things that we see because we are live there, but it's different for our suppliers who are not there all the time. So I think it can be a bit challenging at times. I wouldn't say different, but it's just a matter of inviting them in and showcasing how we do it so that they can take it back with them to India and follow the same way. But as such, I don't see much difference. But I guess over to you, Vipin. I think maybe because you've been longer in your career and I've just been a decade, maybe you have more to share.
So I have, so of course, what you have said is right. That is true. And this thing we observed while I traveled, for my project work and for all these conferences, and you meet different kind of testers from all around the world. Then you see the various perspectives that they have, that they bring with them, and then you start realizing sometimes what's the difference, right? And when I started looking at the answers, I think one thing which I noticed, and that's again, as I said, what I'm saying is only my view, right? There is no some scientific proof for about that. But the thing is, Indian IT scenario began like what 40, 45 years ago, 50 years ago, right? And lots of testers, like even senior to me, I am like close to 20, 22 years in testing, but there are people who are 30 plus years into testing. Uh, they began their careers in India. I'm not going into dev versus testing discussions, but Indian IT was most about offshore partnering with companies who are in US. That was the original thing that happened. So the business idea, money all came from US, right? And the labor, the people, the management, and everything, it comes from India. So testers were expected to test few things, which is basically you have requirements and you have your Jira processes and everything. Pass it, give the certain numbers, number of test cases that I created, number of bugs that we logged, and all that stuff. That happened. So that was the initial testing which began. And even that time, IT and internet was not readily available at every person's home. So which means the new people who came into the testing world, let's say early 2000s, right? Although a lot of testing innovations were happening around the world, there were different schools of thoughts, right? So we have James Back's own perception of testing, Marit's perception of testing, people coming from UK and all other people, right? Fiona Charles, she has her own, Lisa Crispin. In India, there was nothing called as a school of thought. So even my juniors became testers looking at me, what I am testing. They thought this is the correct form of testing. So what I was used to do in the beginning days, the next generation was also doing the same things. And slowly, people from India also, when they started traveling to customer site, lots of people from Bangalore, people from Pune, people like, for example, Rahul Verma, people like, for example, Pradeep, right? These guys started traveling. They became the early speakers from India on international stages. And then they brought all those good ideas back at home, started implementing those ideas into their projects. Then people who are working in those projects or people who are connected with them, they started following them. They started putting those new things. And that's how slowly now Indian testers are almost at par with the international testers. But still, there is one more difference. It's like about the thought process. We are still primarily into the offshore business, whereas more product knowledge, more product way of thinking in development as well as testing, that is still on, let's say, the developed nations, the US, the Canadas, the UK, the Germanys, right? So people who test a product and people who test in an offshore way, the approach changes. So in terms of testing comparisons, like my manual way of testing and your manual, my automation or your automation, that's just a skill comparison. And in skill, no one is less or more than anyone else. People here are brilliant developers and brilliant testers and brilliant automation engineers. But the point is, what we are doing is we are regression testing, we are automating 5,000 test cases of regression. But a tester who is onshore, living, breathing, eating, playing with the developers who all are thinking about the product, right? They know that time to market, they know the cost of putting a product in front of a customer, they know the customer's feedback and how quickly they have to do those things. That quickness, right? That is still, I would say, lagging here because we are still given that 2 week sprint and people still work on weekends and others. So I would say work culture is something that is different from both sides. That has actually made the developers or testers or whosoever in that work culture little bit different from each other, right? But in terms of skill, in terms of communication, in terms of thought process, no one is less or more anywhere else. And now more and more products are being developed in India. So I'm sure the current generation who has become testers or become developers, they learn to code and they learn to test in a much faster, efficient way, right? Rather than how we were trained. So I had to undergo this change to, be at pace with these people. But my learning was a slow learning because I went to lots of conferences. I met someone, got one leaf out of their book. Then I met someone else, got the second leaf. But modern world is not waiting for you to collect all the leaves to make your tree. You collect two leaves and you have to then grow all the rest of the leaves very quickly so that your tree is ready. So these guys are now becoming much faster into their skills, right? And that's the only difference that I see at both these places.
I appreciate both your views, and I'll just wrap this section up by saying that no two testers in one location are going to be same. So if I'm comparing geographies, it's again going to have so many factors into place. And I think QA is such a thing where after engineering, for example, no engineer thinks they'll be put into something called as testing or QA. I know so many freshers even today, they think that, oh, we never knew about testing in the first place and we don't know if this can get us some good income. So just
But this
having a
is
lot of.
changing. But this
Sorry?
is changing now.
Yeah, this is
This is
changing, and
changing.
that is actually a good thing that there are testing coming, and it's more of a on-job training kind of a thing. Forget about conferences and thing. And again,
Yes.
coming back to India, the whole boom of communities has happened in the past few years. Otherwise, all of so many brilliant testers were just working in silos. So I mean,
Exactly.
I feel a little sandwiched in the sense I sit between like 12 and a half years of experience. So I'm just trying to wrap this section up between the two of you and move on to my second question, which is so having the two of you, I had the urge to ask this question again from a point. Let's take it as a layman point, who a person, whoever he or she is, and they want to speak at some conference. And again, speaking publicly might not come very naturally to many people. And again, leaving that aspect of communication and everything aside, or stage fear aside, the next hurdle which they might have is, how do I even get a chance to speak at a conference, any conference for that matter? So just giving the premise to the question and finally stating it out loud is, how do anybody get a chance to speak at a conference? Because you both have ample experience, it made sense to have this question.
So shall I go?
Whoever wants to go
Yeah,
first.
very nice. You first always.
um, I'll just share my background with the public speaking. I actually started not very long ago in 2020 when COVID started, because I thought I'll be doing talks from home. I won't feel shy on stage. No one's going to judge me like that. So I just thought, why not give it a go? And actually, one person that really, really made me see that there's this world out there where you can speak is Parveen Khan. I was working with her, and we were both at the same consultancy, and she would do all these amazing talks, and I was like, I never even explored that side of the world. I don't even know what's out there, because when I started as a tester, just like you said, Shruti, I didn't know there was a testing field. So I just learned on the job, and I wish I knew about community then. So that's the thing. It just, someone's passion became my passion. And what I would suggest is always, yes, of course, there are people who have a lot of material but may not be able to articulate it, or feel like they are maybe a bit introvert. But I have to say something. Introverts come up with beautiful thoughts, beautiful way of thinking. And yes, it might be a first rejection, second rejection, third rejection, but the fourth one might be accepted. Similar like me, like I was very shy, and one of the big boards of community today, I put 3, 4 papers there, and then my fourth one got accepted, and I was like, what did I do different this time? Maybe it's just the topic, or maybe the way I wrote. And that time I also spoke to a community lead. I think it was Suman Bala, who I asked, can you please just check my abstract, see if it makes sense? And it got accepted. So it's just, you need to sort of see what conference matches sort of what you want to do, because there are loads of conferences going on. It can be a bit much for you as well. So maybe start with something small like a meetup, or maybe just a webinar, and then grow into going on stage. And then I think that stage fright will just go, because you're so excited from all the success and comments that you've received online in a meetup, and basically learn from that to be perfectly fine on a stage. Even today, I would say when I go on stage, I still feel a bit of nervousness. I shake a bit, but after 5, 10 minutes of speaking, I feel like I'm in my zone now. So I just talk. But I can totally understand, for a new person, this might not be easy, and it takes time to get comfortable. But there's so much support out there. Like, if you ask myself, or Vipin or Shruti yourself, like if someone is interested, we can view abstracts, we can suggest what to change. And even when your talk gets accepted, sometimes people are worried how to present. Sometimes people might feel that their PowerPoint slides or the way they want to present is not, that they're not feeling confident about it. So the community is here to help. You just need to make noise. We will help you no matter what.
That was beautiful, and special shout out to the two females you mentioned, because sometimes it's just about viewing somebody, everything is so socially and networkingly available these days that somebody who has aspiration can see one of your videos and just be, okay, I can also talk and maybe I can do something about it. And Parveen and Suman are like amazing, amazing females. So special shout out to them and special shout out to you for mentioning them. So that was really wise of you giving those points. So what do you have to say about this?
Okay, so mine is I started possibly 2012. That was my first speaking because I was started QA career earlier, right? So from 2002, I think I started as a QA, and then by 2012, I was just stuck in whatever I was doing. It's 10 years into QA. At that time, mobile was just coming in. There were no mention of APIs. There was no focus on automation. Um, Leave aside all these IoTs and AI and machine learning, right? So there were no buzzwords. It's all Java, .NET applications. Just do manual. Jira was there, and you became senior in your job. So then you have teams. When I was, let's say, 3 year old in QA, and there was a fresher came in, I have a lot to teach him.
Right.
But after 9 years, when I became 12 years experience, then he also became 9 years experience,
Right.
right? And if someone is intelligent, then he has grabbed almost everything. So I was just like enjoying my job. And then I realized that I'm not the kind of person who enjoys sitting idle, right? And at that age, of course, you are not thinking about retirement, that next 30 years I'll keep doing enjoying my seniority and then I'll retire. So that, of course, that was also not there. And then there was some argument happened between within our company, me and my management, and they wanted me to do automation for a project where I was the only manual QA for 10 developers,
Wow.
right? So out of those 10 developers, 8 are still in the company. So we still meet and we sometimes laugh on this scenario. But I was just testing round the clock, even in the night, 12. So I used to be a nocturnal till today. So raat ko, sorry, even in the night at 12 or something, I was just like sometimes having my wine and still doing testing. And so many things were happening in those days. So my boss said, Vipin, you have to do automation. And I was like, that's fine. I need a possibly give me a junior guy who can help me do the code. So he said, no, you'll do the code. I said, okay, then give me someone who can help me with the manual scenarios because I still have to do regression and other stuff. He wanted me to develop a POC, right, to give to the customer more from a sales angle. And if that happens, then we can develop an automation team as well,
I get it.
right?
Huh?
And I said, the UI is not stable. Every day the UI gets changed, right? The automation POC will not work in a way. This discussion I'm having somewhere in 2011,
Right.
and somehow I was not able to maybe explain my idea to my boss, or maybe he was not ready to understand. But ultimately, it left me furious because it was like the company considered me as one of the senior most QAs in the team with experience and everything, and now here I am telling them technical explanation, right? And you are not going to understand it. So I came back and I was on LinkedIn, and there were lots of forums in LinkedIn those days. So someone asked the same question, like everyone wants automation, but I think less than 10% of the automation projects actually succeed, right? So what can be a reason? Because I had a living live experience on that, I just wrote. And out of all things, I think one of the lines I wrote that automation is a practice and it's a culture that needs to be flow down from the top. So management should accept automation as a practice, right? It's not just within a second I can develop a code. It's a coding exercise. And then that guy said that, Vipin, this looks like coming from a real world experience. Why don't you try conferences?
Oh,
So I said, are there any conferences? So he mentioned Expo QA, which is a Madrid based conference. So I said, okay. So I used all my that discussion with my boss and my anger and everything, and I directed it on a paper.
right.
And I said, and the title still I remember, and that's how to make automation an asset for the organization.
Hmm.
Right? I sent it, it got rejected. Good thing is, most of the conferences till today they send you feedback,
Hmm.
right? So they sent me feedback, and none of the feedback said that that's a rubbish paper. They said, okay, it's a good paper, but it looks like it is coming from a teacher, okay, or it has a lot of theory in it. Like this does not have too much practicalness or something. I said, okay. So that was 2011. 2012, what I did, I refurbished this paper, because by the time I was looking at certain SlideShare presentations from some speakers, and I don't even know at that time those were well-known speakers or what, some speakers,
Right.
right? And I also, I think, possibly saw a couple of YouTubes at that time. I said, okay, maybe. So I wrote the paper again, the same paper, same topic. I sent to Expo QA again, 2012. Again, it got rejected, but this time the feedbacks were even better. I said, okay. And someone out of those, I connected on LinkedIn with that guy. The name is Brian Bakker from Netherlands. I think right now he's still in Netherlands, yeah. So he told me, Vipin, there is one more conference if you want to try there, and that is like QA and Test Bilbao in Spain only. So I sent the same paper there. It got selected. That was my third attempt, right? It got selected, great. Now, all my life, I've been a traveler. Only thing that I want from my life is I travel all the 197 nations. That's my dream, right? But money and so many constraints you have, you cannot travel so much, right? So I said, okay, Spain, great. What's the city, Bilbao? So I actually went through Google and searched what Bilbao is all about, because it's not Madrid, it's not Barcelona, right? These are the popular cities in Spain. And at the same time, that Indian movie Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara got released, where those traveled through Spain. So I said, yeah, I have to go to Spain, whatever happened. But then the problem was they said we will reimburse after you do the conference and go back to India, then we'll reimburse.
Oh.
Now the problem is who is going to pay for my ticket and all those questions. What will happen if they don't pay? How will I get visa? So I went through this entire process. Ultimately, I reached there, and those 4 days in Bilbao were, I think, the most beautiful days of my life. And that day, that time, I realized what a conference is all about. It not just standing on the stage and speaking. Of course, it has its own feedbacks, right? The couple of feedbacks I got is you are looking at the slides too much, you are not facing audience, your slides have too much text, right? It needs to be more images so that people just see the image once and then it's like eye to eye contact between you both. But that's just a 45-minute thing. But 4 days is a lot more than 45 minutes. So the kind of hospitality every conference shows to you, and I think Laveena can vouch for most of the conferences she has been. Few conferences are literally a fest, right? I think you should pay Shruti someday to go to Agile testing days. You won't feel like it's a conference. It's a marriage happening, right? All the relatives and friends, and all the entire hotel is booked for this, and it's all like I had just been there once 2 years back, and I was like, "Come on, man, is it a conference?" But as a speaker, the kind of respect you receive from the organizers, from the host, even from the front desk people, then from the audience, right? This is amazing. And then I realized, okay, one is done. I don't want to have that experience in my life as one time fluke. So I need to have one more conference at least. And that, what you say, pinch in my heart is like twice I was rejected from Expo QA, right? So even if it's like two conferences in my entire life, the second has to be Expo QA.
Okay.
So then I wrote my, I think, third or fourth paper. And then finally 2015 was my second conference, but at Expo QA. So, and then slowly, my thoughts, my wishes, they started getting wings. I started flying. What would happen if I received two conferences in a year? What would happen three conferences in a year? And then which is the biggest one? Eurostar. Okay. One not selected, two, three, four. And I never stopped by the email that, sorry, Vipin, you are not selected or something. Then I went back to the website. I see who all are the speakers. Then there are some names get etched in your memories,
Right.
all the bigger names. You see Marek almost everywhere.
Right.
These days you go and you see Laveena everywhere, right? So it doesn't matter who started when,
Correct.
but you started thinking that if Laveena's name I am seeing like 5 out of 8 conferences, she must be doing certain things good, right? If you can contact her, great. If you can't, still after COVID, almost every conference session is online, recorded on YouTube. Go and watch. Just see what is the mannerism with which she's walking on a stage, how her slides are, right? If you can, ping her. And most of the speakers help each other. It's a huge ecosystem, right? So my first three mentors, like what Lavina mentioned, I would like to mention their names as well. So Brian Backer is the definitely the one, Doug Yandy Grew, and third is Yaya Kangater. These three Dutchmen, they are almost in all the QA test experiences where I've been. Wherever I was stuck, I messaged them. And when I traveled as a tourist to Netherlands, especially in Amsterdam, all three came at different times to meet me. And that thing made me more humble because, Shruti, like you said, you still can't find words that we are here. I can't find words at that time when these guys said, okay, Vipin, let's meet out for dinner. And I was like, this is outside ecosystem. And these guys are still ready to talk to me. And I was like, what, two conference old, three conference old? And these guys were like 40, 50, 60 conferences. I messaged Marit for once a few years back, and she replied me. 2 years back in one conference, I realized she is retiring from conferences because she has spoken 540 conferences. 540. I think me and Lavina in our lifetime, if we combine both, will couldn't be reaching 540. So you will see people whom you can follow, people whom you can literally not only follow, whom you can praise, whom you can do all your prayers to. I want to be like this one day, but don't want to be a typical person. Maybe just one thing about Lavina, I want to have that in my talk. I want to have one thing from, let's say, Shruti, one thing from someone else. And you start grow. Each day you are growing yourself, looking at presentations and everything. So conferences are not just about talking on the stage and entering one thing in your LinkedIn. It is about you, your perspective changes about the world. Everyone is coming there from a story, from a background. Everyone has a beautiful story. Story not just on the stage, story outside. How do they began? Right? Lavina has a different story. I have a different story. Everyone had their own struggles. Everyone has their own challenges financially. People coming from Ukraine these days, and they opened. They said that they were doing certain good things, and a different situation happened. Right? And then sometimes, and those things keep you more and more modest. You said, "Wow, this guy is struggling for his first conference. By God's grace, I got 40.
Right.
This is fine. Even if I didn't get my 41st, still I have got a lot." And then, as I was telling you, Shruti, because all of these things are coming to us from the community, right? All the small wisdoms, all the small tidbits, a small line. Even if someone is posting one line, right? And you think this line is good. So you gained something, you learned something from the community. It's your literally moral responsibility to give it back to the community,
Right.
be it terms of blogs, be it form of these podcasts, be it terms of anything, but it
Yeah.
should go back. And
Yes.
everyone should see that how people will remember us when we are not there. So all our blogs, all our podcasts, these things are basically making us immortals, right? Maybe somewhere there. So the
Right.
new generation should know, okay,
Right.
even if they get 0.5% of what I have learned in my entire life, they learned something. And that is like a
Right.
very satisfying experience for me.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We both said it together, but yes, absolutely. I mean, I think I am the crazy wild one without taking too much of both of your time. Because after my 7.5 years of becoming a tester and lead and managing teams, everything, I came to a point where I was like, how do I give back to the society and testers and everything? And community was still coming up at that time. So I literally went into solution architecting at startups selling automation products, and I don't know if I ruined my my career or what, but it was such a satisfying feeling of having people like myself on the other side and helping them to make their automation or testing better. I totally
Yeah.
understand what you say. I just did it in a very very wild way, and I hope people do it like this what they are saying and not not follow me. But I'm really grateful because both of you shared honest and candid experiences of both of yours, and it really means a lot. And a disclaimer to people: if you want to go for conferences, amazing, you have all the framework here. If you don't feel the need for it, please don't stress yourself. It's okay. It's your
Yeah.
life. you
Yeah.
you need to take care of what you really want to do with it. So just saying it out loud, it shouldn't become like a fad that okay, everybody's doing, so I need to do. I wouldn't do
No,
that.
if you can't be a speaker, just go once in your lifetime as an
Just
attendee.
attend it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't
Yeah.
have to
Just
be.
go
Just
network.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. That
right.
ecosystem will actually pull you to write a paper. Last year, I took one of my colleagues, Abhishek, to Hostef just as an attendee. I had to convince my boss. that he is quite senior, and and this year he submitted a paper in a stiff.
Right. I think
Nice.
the way you answered the question, it was so infectious. I'm pretty sure some of them would have already written by the time they will listen to your answer. It
I
was so
think we have created
contagious.
more competition now, Lavina.
Better,
No,
better,
I,
more
I mean it.
challenges,
I
more
genuinely mean
challenging.
it.
No, but
So,
yes,
so moving on to my final question, which I have for the both of you, and I felt like it's the need of the hour to ask you. I understand you might be both a little generation apart here, but still, you both are working parents. You both are working individuals. So you manage conferences, you have community work, you have your own actual work which pays and gets you your bread and butter, and then there is your family for whom you're earning that bread and butter. So um, do you so I really want to understand from the both of you, how do you manage all of this as a working parent?
Well, I'll go first as a new mom. Um, it wasn't easy as a new mom because you give birth, your hormones are all over the place, and I think many people have a lot to say, right? Many people are like, you should rest, you should not do these things, relax, you've just given birth, give time to yourself. But I felt a major imposter syndrome, major one. I was like, I'm not working, I've just had a baby, I'm in pain, and I'm losing a lot of information.
God.
And I was really sort of, what's going to make me happy right now, apart from being a mom, is being able to go network with people, speak with people. Because I'm struggling not being in the office, not having my meetings, not talking to people. I'm just by myself and my baby. And obviously after paternity, my husband went back to work. So then I was like, what can I do? How, like, I want to do community work. If if my body and being a mom and baby can allow. And then obviously, I thought, you know what? I'm not going to leave my baby behind. I don't have that confidence yet. I'm going to take my baby with me. Whether that was my mother-in-law coming with me, whether it was my mom and dad, whether it was my husband, there was always someone around. And Vipin, you saw them with the
I
pushchair
saw
walking around
two
everywhere.
conferences already.
And I came with a very tired face for the Bilbao one, because it was a sleepless night. But
Yeah.
it's just, it kept giving me like energy to do more, to feel like I'm not losing out, you know. And I don't know why I had the imposter syndrome. Maybe it could be my hormones, but it's just the support of families is super important. And I definitely thank my family for being there. And definitely I thank the conferences and community for letting my family come. As Vipin said, agile testing days, I've taken my family. I went there pregnant first time. Second time I went with the baby. This time I'm going to go with my family again. It's just beautiful. You feel more happier when you have your family around as well. And I've seen Vipin with his family as well. It's just really, really nice. And the support is there. You feel more confident as well that, oh, my baby is just there, you know, like I can go back and see my baby as well. So it's really nice. And now I will really realize what everyone used to say. As a working parent, how are you going to deal with these sort of conferences? So I think depending on what my lifestyle permits, I will be able to do some, but I will be more sort of mindful about myself as well. I won't want to stretch myself too much and then basically have consequences accordingly. So I would say, if you have the support, if you can manage yourself, your work, go for your time, your work commitments, your family commitments, and there is support for you. Feel free to go to these events. These events want you. Uh, these events are for you. And as Vipin said, it's not about just gaining knowledge, it's giving knowledge as well. Even if you're new to this, you might share a sentence or some information that someone with 20 years of experience might not have known. So the more we attend these, the more we network with people, the bigger our network becomes, and we can give back to our community. Similarly, I remember when I was at university, we barely studied software testing. So now I'm planning to give back to the university somehow. And I've been doing it through the British Computer Society talks on a webinar, just to showcase what testing is all about, because I think it still needs to be part of a module and it's very important. So yes, I mean, if you have the support and you have the time and it's not impeding your work requirements, please attend these events. It's fun to be together. It's fun to speak to loads of people and learn together.
Well said.
So you want to go?
Yeah, yeah. So I was just thinking what all she has already said. Uh, but anyway, so my journey is little again bigger than this. So my kids are no more 1 year, 2 years. Right, my daughter is already working in Mumbai now, and son is in his college in Germany. So I've been through this journey, and I didn't get a lot of time to become senior in my job and then have a family. So family and my job began almost at the same time. And within my 3 years of my, I think 2 years of my job, we had our we had our daughter, and then 2 years later the son came. So the priority was always to earn more because you have a family,
Right.
and my expenses and my salary both increased at the parallelly, right? So with every appraisal, you have the higher fees to pay, and through that journey, I moved on. So that urge was always there. Maybe if the back motivation was to earn more, but I know that just doing a job will not earn me more, will not fetch me more money. So that means you have to gain, I would say, visibility in so many places. If let's say writing a blog gave me $100, I would say why not? Let's do that, right? If going into a conference help me gain some contract or some uh, uh, extra bonus into my job because I am taking my company's name to those conferences, why not? Let's do it. But these were the initial thoughts, right? And as I said earlier also, and again echoing the same with Laveena, when you go into conferences, then you start realizing this is not just about making money, but that also came with the comfort that your kids are safe at home. Then only you can go in 10 different conferences. Being in India, I cannot pay for the flight tickets to take those people to my every conference.
Right.
Fine. And coming from the family where my mom and dad both were working, my mom is one of the earliest in her generations to work in a government job. So we have seen what a working woman and a working man, like, together they work, how they manage a household. I have never seen a housewife, and I have never seen a man who just comes from an office, sit on a sofa, and then the lady does all the household work for him, right? So, and we are three brothers, we have no sisters. So that means when we come from school, no parents was there at home. Leave aside all those housemates, because back that time no one was that rich. So literally you have to put everything on your own. You have to do everything on your own, right? From very early age, we started realizing that without support of the family, entire family cannot grow. It's not just me or my wife or my mom or brother or whatever. So that contribution comes from everyone. And when my parents retired, it's like about 16, 17 years ago, my kid was like 4 and 1, possibly, or 5 and 2. So they were like, we are here, you guys now spread your wings, right? Keep doing this. So that was a big, big boost for me. Out of my three brothers, two moved out for various financial, economic, and job reasons. Somehow I stayed here, right? And those days, IT meant to be go to US, get your H1, and stay there, be a citizen there by the time. Unfortunately, or fortunately, whatever we term it as now, because it's just perspective.
Right.
Being in IT, out of three brothers, I was the only one who is in IT, and I was here in the same place where I was born.
Correct.
So for the first 30 years, I was like, I'm not earning much because my brothers were earning better and all that stuff. But then I realized what I'm gaining with a family is much more, which can be monetized, right? Money is at certain point, but then so many things. And biggest thing is I was always confident, carefree mode that what would happen to my kids at home, right? So that's a very, very critical thing, very, very important thing. If someone wants to grow, he must have support from everywhere. when you reach conferences, of course, there are so many people who are ready to support. And now, after so many conferences, the network is huge, right? But your first conference, second conference, you still have to establish yourself. You still have to ask for help if someone wants, and you are a bit hesitant. And being from India, we are not typical Europeans, right? We don't know about their history, or you can't talk about their sports. So it's very selective topics where you can communicate with them.
Right.
And if you are not even from a convent background, then even your English is a challenge. And you can't even crack jokes because you don't know what kind of political joke they can take on their chin and what thing can offense them. So basically, you are in a group, but you are always quiet and listening. And if you don't know about their culture and history, then even that listening is of no use to you, because they are talking about their politics, they are talking about their beers, they are talking about their football, their weathers, and you are like, okay, these are talking, I'm just here. So this thing, and then finally, and with no less credit, that's your spouse. So mothers are mothers, fathers are fathers, but if you have a full supporting spouse with you, right? That's the biggest thing. Parents are parents, of course, they have their duties, but at one point, with their age and everything, they can sometimes say that, look, we are tired, or whatever thing is there. Kids today, modern kids, even at the age of 10 or 12, they are no more a liability on your parents. They manage things on their own,
Right.
which means you have to have a close watch on them, because in what directions they are going. If you have a very supporting spouse, right? And I've seen with Lavina, and I can basically vouch for my wife as well. She was in IT, she was a developer. And with my daughter's birth, she went into teaching for some time. Then she started enjoying teaching. We planned our second kid, that happened. She continued with her teaching. But the point is, no one has to stop each other's growth, right? So
Right.
it's not that it's the male who has to grow and wife will take all the pains. It's the other way around as well. So after, I think in our 18th year of marriage, she finished her PhD. And for those 2 or 3 years, I supported my mom in kitchen, because I wanted her to give enough space to
Right.
have her PhD. And only after 17 years of marriage, we did our first foreign travel together. Because earlier it was small kids, sometimes financial issues, then her PhD and all other stuff. And then I said, look, since our kids are now grown up, why don't you also try speaking stuff? And that's how we both started traveling. It's now 6 conferences for her as well.
Wow.
And that is where we met each other. So I think it's a two-way thing, your spouse and your family and everything, right? It's your culture as well. I think Indian culture, still this is a lot more support that you can get from people, right? uh, so many things I would say, but one thing which is very common is just the support about from your friends, your offices, your family, neighbors. I think someone give a 5% support, someone has a 20% support, someone has a 50% support. But support always helps. Even if someone takes care of my kids for 2 days, I can go for a meetup in Pune, right? And that helps me take my next step. So, and rest, everything is like differs from person to person, how you manage things. uh, uh, Managing a job and managing kids is like a balancing act, both sides. But at one point now, since I've managed kids of I've seen there from 10 to 23, the same age is the junior people who now join my teams.
Right.
And I know how to talk to this generation.
Right.
I can shout at them. I cannot shout at my kids, because modern generation, you can get some response back. So I realized that I cannot shout at anyone. So you become more decent, more, and then people started praising you. Look how the way he talks, how the way he solves our problems. And sometimes I've got this thing that from my teammates, sir, you talk just like my father. I said, I'm the age of your father. So I have kids of your age. So I know how to talk to you people. So these things again help you a lot. Uh, yeah, support is the biggest thing.
You don't look your age is another thing, but I totally get it because
Again with the support thing.
yeah,
I,
yeah,
if you see the older generation, people of the age of 50 and 60, they look much older. They develop all those lines light on them, because they don't have support. They have big families to take care.
yes,
They try to save
yes,
money. They work rather than taking a bus, because that will have like 5 rupees spent and all that stuff. But that's the support your parents have. They said, okay, Vipin, you have this podcast, just go to the podcast. We'll take care of the, let's say, the garden work on top right now. If
Right.
everything comes on
Right.
without all this support, doesn't matter how much money you earn or other stuff. I think
Exactly.
age started showing up you on a lot.
Yes. Yes.
So everything in family or your group or whatever, but it has to be closely knit.
I'm just feeling so lucky right now that I asked this question to the both of you because irrespective of gender, irrespective of which generation we are in, irrespective of you know, I think the three of us are very very family oriented person. I think I can say that all the three
Got
of
your
us.
mom, you brought your mom into this right in the beginning, because your eyes have to be straight on her. That
Yeah.
is the exact support and culture we all are born and brought up.
Yes.
Doesn't matter where we live in this world. That's the culture that
Exactly.
we have.
Exactly. And when you said, I mean, both of your answers were so heartfelt. I was just trying to not get emotional because I tend to when it comes to family. And, you're saying that you stayed with your family and you were there for your parents. I can understand because we are the branch or root which stays with them. So I understand how it goes. And it is so, so humbling. I really feel very lucky that I asked this question because so many of them out there might be struggling with whatever situation they are in, but at the end of the day it's just the part and parcel of life as a working individual and how you manage it.
The beauty about Indian culture is we never say my parents live with me, because that changes the perspective. Doesn't matter you are the owner of the house or not. It's like I live with my parents.
Yes.
You know,
They always keep us in check. They always keep us in
I
check.
live with my parents. I still get scolded. It doesn't matter. I'm 50 years old. I still get scolded for
Exactly.
right.
You
But
remind me of Indra Nui and her conversation with her mom, right? Where she's like, you keep that crown outside. When you come here, it's my son-in-law. You come here, you get the milk, you take care of stuff. So I think our parents
I
just
might
keep
be
us in
international
check.
celebrity when I travel or speak outside, but as soon as you come home, it's the same thing. The cooler is empty. You didn't take care of this. The AC is not working. I said, come on, mom. You came from
Regular
outside.
regular people.
Yeah,
Common.
that's common.
I mean I kept a very difficult question for the both of you. I think I admit in all the podcasts I've done so far, it's been 100 plus in the past 2 years, but this was a very hard hitting question, and both the two of you took it up so gracefully and shared your honest stories. I really am very grateful and humbled right now because I felt like asking it out loud, and I could have done this with this pair only, I feel. So thank you for your time today. I know we all are managing some things and still we took that time to do this recording. It really means a lot to me, and I hope whoever is listening would make the most out of it too. You guys have any parting thoughts? I wouldn't take much of your time now, so I'll just wrap it up.
I think just thank you very much. And yes, I hope whatever we spoke was useful to the audience. And we hope to hear from the audience as well.
Yes, do put
That's
something
I
in the
think
comments to let us know. Okay,
similar things, similar things from me as well. Of course, this what we did was is primarily for audience, right? Of course, people connect with us individually, but as collective thoughts in just 1 hour and half an hour, 45 minutes thing, if it can help even one person, we would be happy that our time is utilized the best way. To the audience, feel free to connect with us
Mm.
for any of these. If someone wants to be really in conferences, or how they can support community, Lavina is a great person. I am here. Shruti, you are doing a brilliant job. Keep doing what you are doing. And I would say personally, I'm a little bit sad because these are just three questions. We have so
We could go on and on.
that gives us
yeah,
hope.
on,
That
on
gives
and
me
on.
hope that I can get you on the show again and ask you questions. So
Yes,
I,
part
I feel
two.
actually happy right now. I was sad to wrap this off because I know there are time limitations for all of us. But now that line from you, sir, gave me hope. And I'm going to catch the both of you again, or maybe one on one, and ask you some more.
At
Definitely a
least when
part
you start
two.
speaking now, and you start speaking about like okay from where you started, and then suddenly you thought that's a long journey,
It
right?
is.
Because when you work, you don't feel like okay where you are. You are just opening, looking at Jiras, looking at Teams, the regular stuff.
Right.
right? Writing facts, that's a cycle that you have to, that's the wheel you have to move every year. But then suddenly someone say, okay, you started, and then said, okay, 2003 I started. Come on, man, that's too old. And then
Yeah.
you start looking at journeys and everything, and you have made so much memories.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think it's a very short time to discuss all. But yeah, your questions were quite apt, uh, very specific questions, and I love those three questions because you cater quite a good thing. I think about family, about personal things, about conferences. Uh, that's pretty good. So would love to be again on your show whenever you want us. That's all from my side. Thank you. In the
Thank
company of two lovely ladies, my weekend has begun.
you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Really, this means a lot to me. I hope you guys stay blessed and be happy as always. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Same feelings for you. And Lavina, we are meeting in what, 3 months time now?
Yes.
We both
Thank
Eurostar.
See you soon.
you.